everybody, welcome back to Oh My Gut, our favorite podcast talking about all things gut health. And today is special because we have not just one but two special guests, and I will make them appear. It works! So, okay, but this is a bit weird to do the interview, so I will make myself go over there, okay? One more time. Alright, so that was fun, wasn't it? I'm so glad that you came to join us at such short notice.
Sure.
How
Thanks for
are you,
having me.
Pierre?
Good. How's it going, Jordan?
All good. We want to let the listeners know a little bit more about who you are because they already know Maria, right? Our Mama Maria. But maybe Pierre, you can just give us a little introduction about who you are and why are you here?
Great question. My name is Pier Spinazze. I'm a medical doctor, originally from South Africa. My background is surgery, trauma surgery, and I've been for the last 8 to 10 years in digital health startups, pursuing a PhD in AI and healthcare, and have set up two separate companies in medical education and women's health. I've been in Singapore for about 2 years now, or 3 years, yeah.
I'm very curious to know why you were a surgeon and then you moved on into doing a PhD. And in Singapore, it means permanent head damage. So you're causing yourself a lot of trouble to go through learning about AI. So what was that journey like?
I think trauma surgery is particularly demanding in South Africa. So in terms of work-life balance, I think it was a good decision to leave surgery, and then ultimately I think also I had an interest in helping populations of patients rather than on an individual patient-to-patient basis, and I think there's a lot of scope within digital health to have positive impact. So those are two main reasons why I left. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, Maria, you have something in common with Pierre, which both of you are startup founders. So Maria is a researcher background and she also did her PhD in gut microbiome. So how is it like to both of you? Maybe Maria can start us off first. Being a startup founder when your background is so much into health and academics and healthcare and patients. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it's true. We have this in common. We share the same pain of going through a PhD. No, I'm kidding. It's not that painful. Kinda. Okay. Yeah, I have to say that the PhD it's a kind of journey. Maybe you agree with me that it's always up and down. So when I first started my PhD, I was super excited because I had the opportunity to come to Singapore, move here, and start studying humans with specific mutation in the bile acids and understanding how the gut microbiome can influence diabetes. And that was amazing. And then I started, and I very quickly realized that in Singapore, back then, it was like around 5 years ago, there was not even a big community about gut microbiome. So I felt completely alone. I felt I had to carry all this project by myself, understanding how to start and how to keep going, which wasn't easy at all. So I think it was around the third year of my PhD I realized I wanted to do something more. I wanted to switch after my PhD and move to a place in which I was able to express myself much easier. And that's when then I just carry on the last year of my PhD to finish my project. And indeed, when I stopped, then I decided to join my startup incubator program to start my own business and try to help people with my knowledge.
Similar to what Pierre said, he wanted to help populations of people.
Exactly, that's a great point. I mean, he actually brought a great point because when you do your PhD, you indeed kind of help a singular population, right? Or like I was studying specific cohort of Singaporean, but the gut microbiome can help everyone all around the world. So that's a great point. You can really impact a biggest population rather than just a geographically located one.
I would be interested, like what aspects of your PhD skills or experience do you think helped you in the startup world?
That's a good question. Obviously, I started a company about the gut microbiome, right? So that was the main topic I studied during my PhD, and this is what I brought into the startup. So my expertise in the gut microbiome. But then, if I had to be honest with you, I think there is one really important feature you developed during your PhD, which is resilience. You actually are made to fail, and then from the failure, you should always stand up and keep working and being able to use that failure in favor of you. So just do better, and that's helped. That helped a lot in this world of startup too.
Yeah, it's kind of hypothesis testing, right?
Yes.
Like, so does this work? Yes, no. If no, okay, what do we do now? Kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How about you, Pierre? So what's your journey like and why did you choose that PhD to do in AI and leveraging data, and how has that translated in your startup journey?
So I actually came through startups first before doing my PhD. So I did a master's and then I moved into startups. And so the PhD was actually born out of a curiosity around what I was working on in one of the startups, which at the time was digital diagnostics. So point of care diagnostics using machine learning and AI. And I think I just became frustrated by the lack of knowledge and insight I had into the AI and the tech side of it. Whereas, so there was a bit of a divide between communicating what we wanted clinically and what we could do from a tech perspective. And that kind of curiosity and frustration to some degree led to me starting my PhD, which is in London. And and then I think I was in academia for 2 or 3 years, just focusing on the PhD. And like you said, I think academia is very slow, particularly when you're working in something like digital health. You really need to move a lot faster. So I think for a period of time, it's great to learn academic skills, but it was for a short period for me anyway, before moving on to the next venture.
So how did that, so after your PhD, then you founded your very first startup?
Second.
Second startup.
Yeah.
So how was it different post PhD?
I think just the approach. PhD, you go 2 or 3 levels deeper than you would normally. And I think when you have a startup, it's great to have that sort of experience and background where you question things a bit more. So it definitely adds value, but it can also, I think, potentially slow you down. So you need a good mix of skills to keep moving as well.
So some of us who are maybe not as familiar of data and AI in healthcare, maybe you can share a bit about what it is and why is it important for us to have that in the entire healthcare system and have startups like what Maria has started.
Yeah, well, I think the core aspect of AI is that it allows computers to automatically make deductions based off data, right? So essentially, if the computer doesn't have the answer, it can use the data that it has to reach some sort of answer, right? And within healthcare, we have a lot of data that is being stored. I think it's probably the biggest collection of data globally is healthcare data. And a lot of it previously was unstructured in the sense that it's very difficult to use it. But now with time and digitizing sort of patient histories and data from labs and investigations, we can actually use that data to pull out insights from a predictive nature, so predicting disease outcomes or health outcomes, to exploring and picking up traits within groups of people regarding health. So there's a lot of potential that's there. I think it's still very early days in terms of AI. So it's a term that gets thrown around a lot, that we're still very early, I think, in terms of what can be done, but it's growing at a rapid speed. So.
Did you come across gut microbiome data in your journey at all?
I didn't personally go into gut microbiome data, but so I was exploring home testing, and so I did come across companies that were looking into that space.
What is home testing?
What is basically, a few years ago, we were used to go to the doctors for any kind of test, whether it was blood analysis, DNA testing, stool testing. So you need to go to a clinic and the doctor would prescribe specific analysis that then you would do in the clinic. But now it's getting very common to have this home testing. So companies starting to build kit that they can be sent to your home, and then you, in the really comfort of your home, you can just collect the sample and then ship it back, whether it's a lab or the doctor, and they perform the analysis and give you back the results. That's exactly what OSbiome is doing as well. So what happens is that you of course avoid a lot of problems, right? Which is going to the clinics, especially in this COVID time when everyone is very scared to go to the hospital because you might get infected. So much better to do everything home, like you are basically, shopping for clothes. You do it to ASOS and Amazon or any other website. And you do it also for your health. I think is incredibly helpful. While the stool sampling, going to the doctor, you need to produce your sample in a clinic is not always the best because you might not feel that feeling in the moment.
Produce it now.
Exactly. So imagine having the possibility to just, whenever you're home, whether it's going to be in the morning, afternoon, evening, you just collect your sample and then ship it back. Of course, it's not doing by post or by mail. So we have a delivery system that will come, collect the sample to your house and then bring it back to the lab. But yeah, it's basically up to you anytime you want to do it. But again, I find it very useful, even for the DNA testing, you just get a swab of your saliva and then ship it back. So this is what we call home testing.
That's a really, really good explanation. Pia, what are your thoughts on home-based testing? And you've been traveling quite a bit, so do you see a difference in people's perception towards home-based testing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I personally am really excited about the area of home testing. I think there's a lot of potential. It's still very nascent in that it's early days and people are still getting used to the idea of taking samples at home. But if you look at the US, for example, right, there are a lot of companies there that have grown rapidly over the last 2 to 3 years doing home testing. So I think there's definitely a trend towards home testing, particularly propagated by COVID potentially. But in this side of the world, in Asia, I think there is a strong reliance on the clinical system. So there is a great deal of awareness that needs to be generated around, that these tests are something which are, certified lab grade, the same quality and that you would get in through a clinic, but just with the convenience of doing it at home. I think actually potentially, in terms of the delivery of results and the experience, it's actually a lot better than going to a clinic. Because I think companies like Maria's and other companies, they really try to deliver the results in a way that people understand, whereas clinical lab tests tend to be delivered in a data format that a lot of people, it's like, okay, it's within range, but I'm not really sure what that means.
True, that's the very famous words, within range.
Yeah, so I think, these companies are changing the way that people receive their results and engage with those as well.
I'm also curious to know if anyone of you guys watching, listening, have done any sort of home-based testing and what your experience may be. So if you want, you can let us know what it is. We'd love to know what you've gone through, what you've tried, and how you felt about it. So any home-based testing. Yes, Pia. So have you done any home-based testing yourself?
I have done finger prick blood test, home test. I've also done a DNA test. Yeah.
But not the stool yet.
Not stool yet.
We'll try
I'm
soon.
waiting for the
Yes.
stool test.
Do you find that it's convenient? Yes, for sure. But there are some people who would be thinking, it's a bit gross, or maybe if I collect it at home, yes, I will get more detailed reports, but maybe it's not accurate and going to a doctor, So do you think that?
I
Gross first is
think it depends on the test, right? I think DNA testing is obviously a lot simpler in terms of it's saliva-based most of the time. And then stool testing,
Next to come.
yeah, next to come. I think it's probably like one of the easier ones as
The
well to
funniest,
do.
at least.
Yeah.
The funniest?
You should try, just for try. The first time I tried was quite funny. Sorry, keep going.
I'm interested to hear what you
If you like and subscribe to our channel, Maria would do a video on why she finds it funny doing a stool test.
Promise. I'm not gonna demonstrate.
If you like and subscribe enough, Maria might demonstrate.
Might. So yeah, I mean, honestly, the first time I tried it, of course, it's true. There is this misconception. I think of people that are afraid to get it wrong, right? So they're like, oh, how do I unpack and how do I make sure I'm following? But it's much easier than people think it is. Especially for the stool, it's very, very easy. We deliver to you all the necessary items you need to collect your sample clean and comfortable. And you will see, I mean, we will definitely upload a video. That's a great idea, of course, for just the unpacking.
Maria's video.
To show everyone how easy it is, but again, you should try to really trust me on this, and also for you, Pierre, like you should give it a try, and it's much easier than you think.
Yeah, sure. I mean, in the UK, they actually, as part of their screening, NHS screening, they'll send stool tests to your house. Yeah.
So they're used to it, right? Overseas.
Yeah, I think in general, in the West and Europe and the US, I think they already are. A lot of people that are comfortable doing this.
It's true. I think that now in Singapore, there is, we heard about Sarah, right, last episode. She mentioned she did stool testing. So there are people doing stool testing, but not home-based. So people still go to the clinic and then the doctor has to collect the stool. And I really believe that this could be also a barrier for some people to actually test their own stool, right? Because maybe someone doesn't want to go to the clinic and produce the sample there, so they don't feel comfortable doing that. And it's so important though, because stool testing really has to be included in like your annual or even twice per year checkup when you want to check your health together with your blood analysis. So it should be done as much as possible.
Yes, if you have any questions, you can write it down in the comments. We will get Maria and Pierre to look through them, and they would love to help, right? And actually, Pierre, do you have questions you want to ask Maria?
Yeah, so when looking at microbiome, right, you mentioned obviously health factors, so potentially diabetes or high cholesterol, etc., right? So is the microbiome and the results that you get, is that a sign of diabetes? In other words, is it because you have diabetes that your gut flora is, presents with certain types of bacteria, or is that a cause of the diabetes? So in other words, is your microbiome potentially one of the reasons why you have, problems related to sugar and insulin?
Very good question.
Yeah, it's a very deep question, and I really appreciated it because I have a lot of people asking me about what in other words we call association versus causation. So association is indeed when you see a specific gut microbiome which is associated to disease, but causation is the microbiome causing the disease, because we know that, for example, people with diabetes have a specific gut microbiome, but is this causing diabetes, or is it because they have diabetes that then they have the changes in the microbiome? So I have to say that, of course, most of the studies, since we started sequencing microbiome, are done through association. So in humans, what you can do is that you collect the stool sample, analyze the microbiome, and then you see the population, let's say, is from diabetic or obese or autistic people, and then you compare the microbiome, this population versus the healthy control. So then you can see that they have a different microbiome. But again, this is association. But all causation can be done because of animal studies. So what happens is that there is this model of animal which is a mouse, which is called germ-free because it doesn't have any microbiome in the gut, so it's completely sterile. And they have to live in these very cute sterile houses outside from the rest of the world. I had to use for my PhD project, and it's actually really hard to use it because they, of course, you understand they cannot enter in contact with the outside, right? Because if they do, then they get contaminated and all your experiments fail. So what happens is that if you use these mice, then you can transplant microbiome from human into these mice and see if the mouse resemble the disease. And this has been done, for example, with diabetes, with autism, and has been shown that, or even obesity, one of the first experiments was with obesity. So microbiome from even twins, but one is lean and one is obese, was transplanted into germ-free mice. So you see they are twins, so the genetics is identical, but the microbiome is the only different thing they have. And then what has been shown is that the mice transplanted with the obese microbiome, they are prone to gain more weight under the exact same diet. So you see, this is what we call causation. So it's the microbiome driving the obesity. Same with autism. It's been shown that if you transplant the microbiome from children suffering from autism into mice, they develop this autistic behavior. While diabetes, it's a bit more complicated, but even more fascinating, because for diabetes, what happens is that still germ-free mice, but they are mutated with a mutation that make them diabetic. So if you transplant in these mice microbiome from normal people, these mice have better insulin sensitivity, cholesterol, and body weight. So again, showing that the gut microbiome can help improving your diabetic condition. And with diabetes, experiment went even on. So they were able to isolate a specific bacteria called Akkermansia mucinifila that is actually...
Great bacteria.
Can you repeat that again?
Akkermansia mucinifila. You like it? It's super nice.
Muy significa.
Muy significant. I have never thought about that, but I would love it.
Very significant.
Yes, yeah. I like the Spanish vibes. So, what happens is that this bacteria is shown in vitro and in animal study. That is the one specifically that help insulin sensitivity. So what they do, they treat humans diabetic only with this bacteria for 3 months. And they found that there is a rescue of the phenotype. So the people get better insulin, lower cholesterol, better body weight. So yeah, this is whole, it's of course, as you can see, is a long process going from understanding that a specific disease, a specific microbiome, to find the cause of that specific disease. And of course, there are a lot of clinical trials going on and a lot of animal studies trying to understand this. And yeah, the fascinating part is that the microbiome is really exploding as a field. So we have new data almost daily about the gut microbiome. So I hope I will be able to share with you much more, next episode in 2 months, 6 months, about more disease that has been found caused by the gut microbiome.
Yeah, I think it's interesting just for those diabetic patients that are, pre-diabetic, so insulin intolerance. Yeah. If this is an indicator of, future disease state or diabetes, potentially how could they rectify that before becoming diabetic?
Exactly.
And then the other thing which you mentioned was autism, which goes on to, the mental health spectrum. So how your gut microbiome impacts your state of mind, essentially, as well, is really interesting.
Yes. That's amazing. We mentioned in our first episode this gut-brain axis. So the gut microbiome can talk to our brain directly to the gut-brain axis. And also, I think we should definitely do a whole episode about it because it's a very interesting topic. And let us know, guys, if you would like to hear more about this. But yeah, and autism is one, but there is also about Parkinson, Alzheimer. It's very big how the gut microbiome can also influence the brain.
I have one more question, actually.
Okay. Be nice.
So what are your views on fecal transplants?
Good question. I like it. Yes. So, because they talk about fecal transplant in mice, right?
That's why I brought it up.
That's a good link. So fecal transplant has been done in humans too, and is a practice that is getting always most used. So you might think, oh my God,
Oh my God.
how do I do a fecal transplant? Okay, so I'm not going into details of that, but basically the fecal transplant consists in transferring the microbiome from a healthy person into a sick individual, and then see how the disease of the sick individual evolved. So we have big news around the fecal transplant in humans because, for example, now is approved therapy for Clostridium difficile diarrhea infection. Mm-hmm. So people that get healthy microbiome, they rescue, 90% of them rescue the disease state, so they get healthy. And now is a clinical approved therapy that is used. Now there are a lot of clinical trials around fecal microbiome transplant on any disease you can think about. There is Alzheimer, Parkinson, autism, high cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, IBS, IBD, really anything, because people are really interested in the field. Of course, this doesn't mean that the fecal microbiome transplant is going to save us all and all the problems we have, but it would be super cool to see the same rescue we see in the Clostridium difficile infection, also maybe in people having diabetes, or as you say, pre-diabetes, so they are going towards diabetes, but can we stop that? And that's a huge win because people suffering from diabetes are increasing every year. In Singapore, we have about 640,000 people suffering from diabetes, if I'm not wrong.
Huge problem. Also, Singapore is one of the capitals for lower leg amputations.
Oh my God. Yeah, trauma surgery, right?
Yeah, so big problem in Singapore.
That's that's a consequence of diabetes, of course. So yeah, it's definitely a big problem. And it would be a great win to be able to stop the progression of the disease. So if the microbiome can help, I would sign up for like a fecal transplant if you can save my life and my leg. I wouldn't mind about getting like transplantation of feces from another individual. Of course, this is not the gross because now technology allows to put everything in a little pill that you can just intake and then have the results. So you don't need to think about a gross therapy or technique that is used to transplant the microbiome from someone else.
I think people eat far worse things in Asia anyway, particularly. So not
good point.
Bad, right?
Good point. I never tried though. I went to, I think it was in Thailand, the market with all the insects that you can eat.
Scorpions.
Oh yeah, no, never tried though. I was a bit scared and I didn't have the gut to try that. She loved it.
Plus 100 for Maria. And on that note, I think I would love to end here. But yes, we have come to the end of this episode. It's really geeky, really knowledgeful episode. I hope you loved it. I hope you enjoyed it. We also have other episodes on our channel where we invite other guests, other amazing guests like Pier. So let's a round of applause for Pier. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pier.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Follow us on our social media channels as well. We'll be listing them down in the description. And because you are watching this, you get inside news. We'll be launching our second limited launch for the gut microbiome testing. So if you are interested to find out more, head over to the website, and the details again would be in the description, and get yourself in the know. See when's our next updates. But yes, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoy. Let us know what else you want to learn, what other guests you want us to bring on board, and we will see you in the next one. Bye!
Bye!